Community Beacon, Fridays at 6:30 EST, with your hosts Michael Seville and Joel Simmons. A channel whose focus is liberty. A place where the lessons discussed and taught will create openings to a more open and freer mindset. A mindset where you may reach the height of your potential and excel. Here are your hosts, Mike and Joel.
What's going on, brother?
Another day, another way, brother. How are you?
Man, I feel good, but I'm telling you, my heart is opened up wide. So we may end up having a real deep conversation today because that's just the mindset I'm in right now. It's just like, man, mentally, spiritually, I am just wide open. So if we end up going that way, it just is what it is. But I'm going to enjoy speaking with you, brother. That's where we at.
I love it. I love it, brother. You know, it's the first of the month. It's July 1st when they'll be seeing this recording. Of course, we did pre-record it, guys, because we continuously want to continue giving you value at that time that we set forth, which was the 6:30 at Friday. And let's get the housekeeping in order because my brother said he's wide open. His heart is wide open. It's going to be a great conversation. I can already feel it from where we are. Guys, Monday night, right around 9 o'clock, what it takes. You're going to meet me. We're going to have some in-depth conversations in regards to progress, in regards to real estate, in regards to sales. And I do it really all in 20 to 30 minutes unless I'm really feeling it. If I'm really feeling the heat, you'll get more than 15 to 30 minutes. And if you're engaging, we'll get more than 15 to 30 minutes. But this comes from so much coaching that I've been doing, so much things that I've been implementing within my own business that I have seen to be successful. Guys, if you want to go from a hustler to a business person, and then don't forget hustle. Hustle, it's always great to be a hustler running a business, but that's exactly what you want to be. You want to be a hustler running a business, but you essentially want to have a business and not something that's running you ragged, a job that you create for yourself. Because as I said before, I fully believe that we are our worst supervisors. We are our worst supervisors. So check me out at What It Takes. I'll tell you exactly what it's going to take to take your business to the next level. On Wednesdays, we got It Starts With Me. Every Wednesday at 12:30, the brother Joel is always interviewing someone spectacular, an entrepreneur, a community worker, etc. Brother, who do you have on this Wednesday? I guess that'll be, what's that, the 6th?
Yeah, so we got Emily Crookston. She's going to be out again. She's a wonderful person. She's so wonderful. We had to do a part 2. All right, she's just dropping some real good info in there, and I think you'll be moved with her. So there's the second episode, the part 2 with Emily Crookston. So please, come on with the come on. It's gonna be good. All right.
Come on with the come on. And of course, we culminate the week right here where you're watching this with Community Beacon every week at 6:30. Last week and last month. Very powerful time. June, we celebrated the fathers for the entire month of June. So many revelations, so much information. So it was just a very impactful month that we had last month in June. And guys, if you didn't get a chance to see it, especially the fellas out there, go back. We celebrated you guys we celebrated us the entire month. And this month, it's going to be an interesting month as well. And I guarantee you we will not have any letdowns. We'll be going over coming of age with the 4th of July on Monday. We just celebrated Juneteenth. We're going to be talking about coming of age. We're going to be talking about freedom. We will be talking about all of this physical versus mental, right? Is that what we got? Mindset, or is it mental?
That's it. That's it for this week. You know, it's physical versus mental. Think about it in the broadest of sense, everybody. That's really what we want to get down with today, you know, physical versus mental. And I mean, that could be mindset, that could be spiritually, that could be financially. But we're just going to dive in because it's part of our open-ended conversation for today. And then it'll carry throughout the month. Right, brother?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not only that, but we're going to have some guests on the Community Beacon this month. So, we got we have a few sisters, a few ladies that are going to come in and join in on the conversation to kind of give a different perspective, a different viewpoint on some of the things that we're discussing. So we're really excited about that as well. Right now we're still in conversation with Liddy Paul and also Coach Liv and Coach Jamie. So the Relentless Glory. So make sure you check these ladies out, and the Healthier Families, all right, network. So check them out. Make sure you give them a shout out, and then stay tuned. Awesome. Stay tuned, because we're working some big things out over here in the Community Beacon to make sure we continue to provide the not just the learning experience for y'all. Don't get me wrong. Mike has said it so many times from the very beginning. This is a learning experience for us too. Yeah. Like, we are taking this stuff in. These conversations are so deep that they affect us as well. They affect me as well, and so that's one of the things that I really love about it, because Mike and I started this thing based off of us phone calling each other, like, hey bro, how you doing? And it's like, hey man, I'm doing such and such and such, by the way. And then next thing you know, we'll be talking on the telephone for an hour and a half. And it's like, so much would be exchanged, from how to make money to how to serve God, to how to, take care of your family, to how to raise your children. So much would be exchanged. And it was just like, why keep it to ourselves, brother? Let's put this on. Let's put this on some type of platform or something. Let's do it. And so if you all go back and start looking from when we started last year to now, you'll start to see how we have navigated from attempting to simply give some type of lesson and really more sharing our experiences. There are lessons in this, because there are definitely things that we have faith in, that we believe in, that we we will write the check for that bill, because we trust in it so much. And we become experts through experience, as well as our education and knowledge. But it's the conversation that we want to deliver, the truth, the realness, the authenticity. And I thank God that we are at a point in time when we are just having this conversation, and y'all can jump right on in.
Absolutely. So let's get into it. You said your heart was open. That must mean that you probably had something that came across your pathways and it opened it up, and in relation to what it is that we have talking about. What it is, brother, spill the beans.
Well, I mean, I can't spill but so much, because I just finished doing the recording for It Starts With Me out in September. And we don't have the exact date, because we definitely want to prepare. It's the Richard Flint recording. And listen, man, that thing is deep, brother. I mean, like, it's deep. We went so deep in our discussion and talking about childhood and parenting and the things that parents do, as well as how it affects children. And it's kind of amazing almost that we would come out of the Happy Father's Month and go directly into the coming of age. And right in between, the last time I spoke with you in this format and this time, I have this conversation with this guy, Richard Flint, who's in our backyard, Royal Palm Beach, the Flint Incorporation. And him and I have this intense conversation about how what we as parents say affects, the coming of age for children, for our children. Like, what we say matters. And Mike, you say that so often, words matter. I was just talking to my wife about this yesterday, and she was kind of like joking around saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. And like, when I was a kid, that's what we used to say on the playground. It's like, oh, someone would say, oh, your mama this. You'd be like, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. But that ain't true.
I think it stopped at your mama, though. I think your mama was fighting.
my mother, I used to get in fights over my mother. And then one day I went home and I told my mother, well, he said such and such about you. She said, does he know me? And I said, no. Has he ever seen me? I said, no. He said, well, then how would he know if that's true? And I just looked, can you just imagine kids when they're just dumbfounded, parents just kind of like completely wreck their whole thought process on what they were thinking. And that's what happened. It was like, oh, she is absolutely right.
I like how she presented it, question-based. She made you think on it.
She did.
And how she presented the information. But go ahead, brother. It's sticks and stone. I agree. So Kathy said it. Shouts out to Kathy. Yeah, that lovable woman over there. Shouts out to Kathy. Lady, dude. Yeah, Kathy Simmons. Got to make sure we talk about it. So Kathy says. So what were you being mean to Kathy? Is that what's going on, brother?
No. We were having a discussion with my son, and we were just talking about words. And I think he might have been a little bit upset about something, and she mentioned that, and I was like, but in essence, words do matter. Because sometimes the internal injuries can have such a great lasting effect. Like I've got some injuries, I got wounds on my face, that I have. And, with me having keloid skin, I have to keep on getting them treated, and they are a pain in the neck. But the things that had caused me the most amount of damage were the things that occurred in my mind and in my heart. Those were the things that I had to struggle with the most. And those are the things, and these are the places that I protect the most. When we start talking about scriptures, think about this, Mike. When you go to put on the armor of God, the scriptures say put on the helmet of the hope of salvation. It's like you need to protect your mind. Don't fall short of your own hope, your own dreams, your own aspirations, your own desires, because they unlock the key to your reality, and too many of us allow things to enter inside our mind. It's because you don't have a helmet of hope on,
I love it, brother. And I mean, this is such a powerful speak. This is something that we have to be aware of. That's why this social media thing, man, this social media and having access to all this information, all these different opinions, all of these different viewpoints and perspectives, it's a dangerous thing. And there's a moment of sleep, and it's normally like right when you wake up. Like right when you wake up, when your mind and you allow a lot of things in. It's actually the first hour after you wake up. If you have some really restful sleep, which I did last night, thank God, in the first hour is like when you are more, it's almost like hypnotic. You're open to suggestions. That's where you're most open to suggestions during this time. So, and it kind of sets the tone for your day, right? So within the first hour, you turn on the news. If within the first hour you check emails, if within the first hour you take certain phone calls, if within the first hour you I guess people don't do the newspaper nowadays, but you open up the newspaper. If this happens within the first hour, this kind of sets your day. Because your implant, since your mind is so open to these different suggestions, this is the first thing you're taking in. So when Joe says you have to be careful, like how are you careful with your mind? You have to be intentional with what it is that you're taking in. And I wish I could say I perfected it, but I haven't, right? Because here's one of the things, and I need to work on this. One of the first things I do when I wake up is I read the Bible now, and I started paying attention to it as well. Depending on what part of the Bible I'm in, because some of it's some cold stuff. You know what I mean? When you get into certain parts, like I was reading, what am I in? Joshua now. I think I'm reading Joshua, and so there's certain things that happen in Joshua. You're like, man, because it's like, the chosen people are disobeying God again. They're going down this path again, and God has to send someone to go ahead and put them back into bondage for 15, 16, 17 years because they're not doing what they're supposed to do. And so some of those things like, man, it's kind of down. So it's like paying attention to that. And then really what I wanted to say was I have the Bible app. It's on my phone. So the problem with that is that I'm opening up the Bible app and then I may start to get these different notifications that pop in. This is popping in, that is popping in. While I'm reading, I'm trying to do something intentionally right. However, the implementation is wrong. Like I may need to actually open up that book as opposed to opening up that phone. Or I need to take off the notification. I need to set it up so that my notifications are set up correctly to where I'm not getting those notifications straight to the Bible app or whatever. But it's just like we have to pay attention to that. Not only that, but what about another time where you're open to suggestions is before you go to sleep. So if you go to sleep after watching a scary movie, you go to sleep after watching the news, if these are the last things that are imprinted on your mind, your subconscious is sitting on that all night long. That's why you have these scary dreams. You have kids, don't let them watch, these scary movies before they go to sleep. They'll have nightmares, right? Because your mind is constantly doing that. And tell you what, your mind, your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between something that's real and artificially real. Like when you're in a dream, a lot of us aren't having lucid dreams. A lot of us are actually in that dream and your body thinks it's real. So you can wake up, you can have a bad dream and wake up and still have those same emotions happening to you. Important to protect our mind.
Wow. I mean, yeah, getting into it, especially when you start talking about having the, distraction, distraction. That's what we're talking about, right? Because, you're waking up in the morning, you're trying to do something that is really, that's really positive. You're attempting to read the Bible and, next thing you know, these images or these links or, and you're like, oh, that's so-and-so. I hadn't talked with them. I wonder what they got to say. And you have no idea. It could be something that is going to highly motivate you, which would be a good thing. Right. But maybe it's not. Maybe it's not something that's going to highly motivate you. Maybe it's the exact opposite. And we take the chance, And I think that's important. Daddy Grace would always say, he would always tell us, I can't say us. I wasn't alive during his time, but I would always read and hear about the things that he was saying. He said, don't let your ears be a dumping ground. Like, who was saying that 100 years ago? Like, who came up with that? Well, Grace did. He did. Don't let your ears be a dumping ground because he understood how much power a word can carry. Listen, think about this, y'all, especially for those of y'all out there that have faith. If you're saved by the word, right? If you're saved by the word, then can't you be killed by a word? I mean, it just makes sense. You know what I'm saying? When you start to think about it that way, and it's like there's a lot of power in that, and I've been talking with a few people about the RAS, the reticular activating system. That's been coming up a whole lot. And we've been discussing that. And brother, right, you just mentioned that, the subconscious, and it's like the subconscious mind. It's taking those things. Yeah. Oh, that's it. That's it. Mike, the power of life and death is in the tongue. That's scripture right there. Right. The subconscious mind has so much power. And, when we're getting back to, like physical versus mental freedom, like mental freedom, some of us have bondage from our childhood because of the way that, granted, parents do the best that they can with what they have to raise their children. But because of certain things that parents have said or done, we have become bound as a child, or maybe it was the teacher, or maybe it was the community, or maybe it was a friend, or maybe it was an enemy that said, you're stupid. And we didn't, and maybe at the moment when that individual said you're stupid, they were just saying, you're acting funny. Maybe that's what they meant. But the individual took it as, oh, I'm really dumb. And that means that I cannot be successful. I am not smart. And at that very moment, especially in a child's mind, if you're young, if you're like 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, when somebody says you're stupid, that can internalize inside of them, and it can become a bondage. So the words that we just gave could actually put that child inside a jail cell. And in their mind, they don't know how to get out of jail. Every single day, they got their mug and they're going clink, 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 clink. They're calling for some type of assistance. They're asking for, somebody to come and open up the gate, and the door's open, Like all they have to do is just release that internal belief. But what ends up happening is they're so young that they cannot release their belief. And what the Raz does is it says, this is here permanently. It's like tattooing, stupidity on their mind, and you don't see the tattoo. So you don't know that this is in them and it's there for good. And when they get older, every time they go to take a test, they get a 100. They're like, nah, I'm still an idiot. And it becomes self-defeat, self-sabotage. And when people start to do well in life, they sabotage themselves. And this is one possible result out of hundreds, out of thousands, out of possibly hundreds of thousands of results that can happen, all because of the imprintation of words on the mental mind of an individual, both at a youth age or even as an adult. The continuation that causes depression and causes bipolarism and causes suicide and causes all these ideations.
Yeah, brother, powerful words, man. Powerful words. It reminds me of the story about how they train the elephants at the circus. They start off by when the elephant is really young, and this is exactly what we're doing. When the elephant is really young, they put these heavy chains on elephant and they tie it to a pole. Elephant can't move. He can't move when he's really young. And this just and for their life, this is happening until the point where they get to an adult. All they have to do is put they'll tie like a rope and put it around a chair. Now here's one of the biggest mammals on the planet. That's right, and that's exactly what's happening. We get the research has shown that most children, their minds, like most people, most adults, their minds have been and their thought process have been already carved, have already been imprinted by the time they're 7. Their personalities, these different characteristics, by the time they're 7 years old, and then they continue living. This is part of the 4 agreements talks about it. So then we this stuff is given to us, and then we take it on into life, and that's why. And I spoke about this last week. That's why I speak to people as because you got to speak to them as the children, is that they carry this on until their adult life. So we're 30 years old, we're 40 years old, but I'm gonna tell you what, people, we can break the chain. We can the chain can be broken, and it's interesting as well, is because last week I went from, and I'm still reading the 4 agreements, but I got into psycho-cybernetics, and almost all of these newfound books, the Tony Robbins, the Joe Dispenzas, etc. A lot of these stuff comes from the book Psycho-Cybernetics. If you haven't got a chance to read it, I know it sounds very, because believe you me, this wasn't the first time that this book has came across my shelf, so to speak. I've had it before. I think I gave it away without reading it. I gave it to my father in Jamaica, and I never read it until last weekend. I did end up reading it. And what this talks about is it has to do with Maxwell Maltz, and he was a surgeon, aesthetic. What is they called? They called that fix your face, etc. The plastic surgeon back in the 60s, and he talks about how a lot of people came to him with these different things, these different effects that they wanted to fix because it affected their life. And some of these people did have defects, got into accidents, etc. But some people were perfectly normal. And even after they got these different things fixed, they still acted as if they didn't have these things done. Excellent book. And he spoke about how do you change these different things. And it was interesting. He said through meditation, through visualization. Like we've been living a certain way for so long that our brain, it becomes a habit, you know, and habits become temperaments. We've identified with these different things in our lives. Could be traumatic. Once again, I'm with Joel. I think most of our parents do the best that they could with the information that they have, right? And so now we're at the point where we do have to take responsibility, saying, hey, our parents did the best we can. We forgive them. You know, we have to forgive them. We don't want to hold on to it, because you need to forgive and heal onto it before you can move on. Because what you don't want happening is that everything, your result, your characteristics, the way that you behave is due to something that's outside of you. Like we locked up this person that did something to you. He's away. Or maybe he's passed on. He or she is no longer here. And we're still saying, well, that person. Or what we end up doing is we find somebody else to place the blame on. Victim mentality. We have to start saying, okay, well, we've gotten this far. I remember I heard someone say, you got your shots when you got your shots when you needed them. You ate when you needed to eat. You went to the doctor when you got sick. After you reach 18, that's it. You know, like it's up to you to make that difference. So this is going to be, I already feel it, man. This is going to be a very powerful month. I definitely want to get into some of the things that we can coming of age, some things that we need to learn, some of the things that I'm learning, some of the things that'll be advantageous in being the best that we can, because that's what we want to be, right? At the end of the day, we want to be the best that we can. And how we get that is with new information.
I think that's perfect. That's perfect. You know, I was thinking about the scripture in the book of Timothy, 2 Timothy 1:7. For God hath not given us the spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and a sound mind, right? And so, like, when we start talking about the physical aspect of things, like everything that is physical, we have to understand it was first mental. Like you had to think about it. And if you were, whether it was consciously or subconsciously, it was thought, right? Because even as an infant, you know, everything that happened as an infant was subconscious. You did not, you know, you weren't able to process things simply because you thought about it. Like you had to learn how to breathe. Number one, I mean, if we go to birth, right? An infant, a newborn is breathing out of the umbilical cord. They receive oxygen through blood solely. That's it. There's no, I mean, because how else would you breathe underneath the water? You know? And the funny thing about it is, you know, is that some of the first methods of undersea sightseeing or exploring was to actually hook an umbilical cord to a helmet and to funnel that umbilical cord down underneath the water so that the person will be protected from pressures through this hard suit. And that cord would feed them oxygen so that they could breathe underneath the water. That ain't nothing but an umbilical cord, a lifeline.
That's true.
So, you know, so in order for something to happen physical, it first has to happen mental, whether it's subconscious or it's conscious thought. It has to happen there. So for us to go into physical freedom, we have to obtain some type of mental freedom. And now, once we're in the physical world, Mike, you're talking about, you know, all these different habits and how these habits are formed. Like, we have the power over these habits. We can gain, you know, we can gain that financial freedom. We can gain that freedom from eating the wrong things. We can gain that freedom from choosing the wrong types of relationships that always lead us down pathways of pain, insecurity, and hurt, frustration, and sadness. We can do that. There's power inside of us to do that. In order for us to be physically free, I think you have to free your mind. You know, there's a song, SWV, was it SWV or was it In Vogue? Free your mind and the rest will follow. In vogue. Free your mind and the rest will follow.
I love it. And I'm going to tell you what, though. I'm going to tell you what, because there's going to be a couple things. It's going to get scary.
Yeah.
It's gonna get scary. I think I wrote something on Facebook yesterday about, I said something I know how to do with patience, but then someone wrote something else, and I was like, and my thought process was like, because we're trying to turn the corner, and we can't see what's around that corner. We don't know what's around that corner, but we have to turn the corner. So it's gonna get scary. Not only is it gonna get scary, it's gonna take some work. It's going to take some work, but we don't have to. But if you want to progress, you got to do the work. Like you got to do the work, and your body is going to react. You're going to see some physiological, hesitations. Yeah. You're going to get some stress. You're going to feel, because it's anxiety. It's the unknown. Here it is. There's two ways to predict the future, and we get to choose how, right? One of the best indicators, this is what they'll tell you. This is when you go to a job, logically, they're going to say the best indicator of future, of what happens in the future is based on your past, based on past performance. So the best way to figure out is based on past performance, right? That's how your job is going to say, well, what did you do before? What have you done this last year?
I like it.
Here's the second way, guys. Here's the second way. The best way to predict the future is to create it.
That's it. Yes.
So we're talking about creation. We're talking about being able to go forth and be fruitful and multiply. You got to create. And this creation is going to take work, and it's going to be it's going to be scary and anxiety because you have not been there before. But you get to create it. That's the excellent part, guys. That's the hope. That's the hope that you have right there. So now we just got to put those actions behind it and just keep pushing through. I love it.
Here's one thing that might, just off of what you're saying right there, up until like the year of 20, up until just a few years ago, I was living off of everything that I had done. I did this, so I should be able to accomplish this. I did this, so I should be able to accomplish this. I did this, so I should be able to accomplish this. And in my mind, I always thought because I achieved whatever this level was, I achieved this level of paramedicine, I achieved this level of lieutenant, I achieved this level, driver, whatever it was, I achieved these levels. That means that I am worthy of going to the next one, and this was a mindset that I've had for years and years and years. And then, and I would talk to you, or I'd talk to Lou, or I'd talk to my mom or my dad, or I'd talk to Beethoven, or there's so many other people, Hollis, that would just have this inspiration. Even my daughter, even Aaliyah, she would come to me and she would say, Dad, you're going to be such and such, and even my father did one day, and it was just like all of these different people were saying how much greater I'm going to be. Eusebius, remember when we first met, he was saying the same thing when we went to Eusebius' house. And he was saying, and he was telling me certain things. But inside me, all I saw was what I had done to get here. Because that was so traumatic for me just to go through these things and to become this individual. It was so transformational for me that even in my transformation, I thought this was as far as I can get, and that if I were to get any further, I would have to go to school. I would have to have a degree. I would have to do, because these were the things that I was doing. And I didn't even realize that when I made those decisions back then, they were things that I had never accomplished before. And I did not have I did not have the requirements to become those things. I just had the desire to become those things. But somewhere in the middle of all of that stuff, I lost that whole thought process that I had no qualifications to become any of these things that I desired to become, that I successfully became. And once I became those things, I felt as if I needed to satisfy requirements to become something else. And then all of a sudden it hit me, just like what you were saying, it hit me a few years ago. It was like, God doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies the called, just go. Simmons, get up and just do it. How am I going to get there? Just do it. And Hollis would tell me, he would always repeat this scripture to me, and he would say, who is blind but my servant? I'm like, what does that mean? And then it like dawned on me, because if God is your lamp and the light unto your pathway, then who cares if I'm blind? Who cares if I can't see? Who cares if I'm battling with the unknown? Because the only thing that I need to truly be able to see is the vision inside my mind, because the two eyes in my being can only see physical things. And I bring into my life every single time I bring into my life the things that matter most to me, which means if success matters, I bring it to me because that's what I'm hunting for. Going back to that reticular activating system, when I bought my vehicle, immediately I saw more of them. Sure, many people have done this. You get something, you're like, oh, I'm going to get the first phone and it's going to be red. And then all of a sudden you go somewhere and everybody's got the red phone. You never saw it before. But once you input that into your mind, it becomes apparent. So, what you're talking about as far as vision, yes. Living your vision, living your dream, living your aspiration, and crush your past.
We're going into the unknown, guys. I think everything that you did before and you're basing that worthiness is something else, man. That word, basing your worthiness based upon your past, and I think 99% of people, that's what they do. 99% of people base their worthiness based on where they're from, their past, what they were told about themselves. And so now some people tend to be scared to create. And manifestation is to manifest things is the exact opposite of that. The manifestation and thinking about where you want to be, especially if you got lofty dreams, like you got to start thinking of everything that you've been through and as the prep work. It's just the prep work. It's preparing you for what it is to be. And you get to decide that. You get to manifest that. Our subconscious is speaking to us. The spirit is speaking to us continuously. You had dreams about it. You ever had dreams where you could fly? You know what I mean? Like you're doing things that you didn't think you could do. You're in places and positions you never thought you could be, and you wake up and it's just so real. That is speaking. That's unlimited. It's just unlimited. The spirit speaking to you. This is opening you up for you to go out and to create these different things and to be unbound by a lot of the laws. We're going back to the 4 agreements that were given to you. These things were given to you. And we can go back. Who taught you that? Once again, these are things in the past. Then we start to think about the future, and we're basing our future once again on, like I said the first time, based on what happened in the past. When every morning you can get up and create what it is that you need to create. You have the ability to do that. You have the ability to not be unbound. Unattachment is another thing it's huge. To be unattached to the actual outcome, because what could be in store for you could be so much more than what you think it is. And oftentimes it is. How many times have you said, man, how did I get here? Like, how did I get this? Like, I don't even know how I got this, how I got into this position. 10 years ago, you would have never seen me. 5 years ago, I would have never even thought, here I am. Right? Not to say that this just happened, like it happened in a vacuum. No, these were different steps. But if you go back and look at these different steps, you didn't know what was going to happen. And now it's a norm. It's a norm.
Yeah.
A lot of things that we didn't do before, they're normal now. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah. So PM management, something that had dawned on me in the last couple of years. Project, act, manifest, right? So let me tell you an old story talking about things that happened in the past, because I didn't even realize that. I mean, PM management is essentially just, having faith, and trust, that's exactly what it is. It's like believing before you actually receive something. That's what it is. And then doing the work, the physical work to make that thing actually manifest, right? So there was this one day, and we were raising money, right, in church, and I had a goal, and I'm sitting down with my pastor, and I'm like $100, $111, something like that, short of reaching this goal. There's no more money in my pocket. There's a building filled with people, and I needed $111. And so I looked at them. They were sitting at the table, and I was like, listen, we're going to get this. We're going to get this. It was inside of a kitchen. I walked out the kitchen door. I walked around that hallway and came back in the other kitchen door, and I gave them $111. And they looked at me like, what? I went out into that hallway with intentionality, with resolution, with determination, with full purpose, with full faith that what I would be able to do would be bring back that $111. And I don't even know who I spoke with, but I told them, this is the goal. This is what we need to do. I need you to help me right now. And they did it. The people did it. And I walked back in and I gave it. So I said this to say this because sometimes people, they're like, well, there's no money. And listen, I fall victim to this before too. And I still find myself being challenged sometimes when I'm thinking about it. And then I have to tell myself again, I got to kick that old thought away, because how many times have I been able to go, like I traveled from West Palm Beach to Miami with nothing inside my gas tank and with no money inside my pocket. I went over 80 miles. Over 80 miles. Nothing in the gas tank. How did I do these things? Because I thought and believed so much that I could do this, that all of a sudden impossible was now possible. I just got rid of, you know what? I just took the I am and I said, I am possible. I'm possible. I'm possible. It's going to work. It's going to work. It's either going to work or I'm going to die trying, but it's going to work today. And it did. And it did. So removing these old habits, it is that simple. I mean, it can be something difficult because we don't want to get rid of the old habits. That's part of the issue, right? Is that we enjoy holding on to it. But really, anything physical that we desire to do, I think really it all starts mentally. It's like you just have to tell yourself, this is exactly what I want to do. Be determined and be disciplined.
I love it, brother. Be committed. Be committed. If you're committed to something, you're going to make sure that it happens. Once again, guys, and I'm glad we're going to go through it this month. Definitely, we'll be coming up with different things that we do in order to change habits, because habits aren't the easiest thing. You know, we're to eat, from eating to behavior patterns to how you, I mean, ultimately how you feel about yourself and how you feel about life. So there's certain things that I know we both do in order to kind of make the different shift. We'll be going over that. I also want, like I said, with this coming up age thing, one of the things I want to talk about are some of the things that I feel that should actually be taught in schools. So some of these things, especially in relation to young men, because the more I have a calling to teach young men how to be men. It's starting to become a lost art form. And we have to let them know, because one thing about it, guys, when you go out in the world, you get punched in the face. You get checked, so there's no sugarcoating it. You get told what you get told, you get checked, and it's a results-oriented world for a man, and you have to present them. You have to be presented. You're being graded and you're being checked at all times. So we're going to go over a lot of that going over this month. Like Joel said, we got some special guests that we'll have at certain different times. It's going to be a fun month. Other than that, man, I love you guys. I'm going to let the brother close it out.
That's it. It's time for us to bring this to a close. Such a deep, warm conversation. I feel like I can go on and on and on about this. There's so much more that's still inside my heart to speak about. But the brother's right. It's time for us to bring this one to a close. You all have got to show up and be a part of the rest of these episodes this month. We need you to come on out. We want you to come on out. You don't got to show up if you don't want to, but please come on out. Be a part of the conversation. Put your comments inside of the chat. We check the chat and show up, because it means something. What you have to say can make a difference in our lives, and it can make a difference in somebody else's life that's listening to this, because the lessons that we talk about here in the Community Beacon are there to teach us within, how to be brighter lights and to have freer mindsets and to reach our highest potential and excel. So please remember to show on up. All right. So please, thank you for watching. Thank you for participating. Thank you for supporting the Community Beacon. Like, comment, share. All right. Distribute. Hit that buzzer, click the notification so that you know when we're starting. Show up next week as we continue the discussion on coming of age. That's Michael Seville, your real estate king and your business mogul. I'm Joel Simmons of the Tenacity Foundation, your motivatorpreneur, saying peace, God bless, and we love you.